It's called
Where We Heading?
Hello and welcome to Where Are We Heading? A walking, talking podcast where we figure out this crazy labyrinth of a life together. Today we welcome on a lovely guest, Tara Austin. And I'm going to start by asking Tara, hey Tara, where are you at?
Oh, I've just had some bad news from a
no.
friend. And so that's upset me a little bit, but I'm generally feeling pretty positive about life at the moment. And if you'd spoken to me on Saturday, I was in the middle of some sort of hormonal hell in which the whole world just seemed terrible. But today I'm well out of it and I'm feeling lifted and grounded and all the things that I should be. And so even this bad news, I'm feeling positive about things. Yeah,
You've built up that strength and that defense to be able to handle it.
Yeah, I'm feeling resilient today.
Nice.
That's the thing.
Resilient.
Yeah.
I'm glad today feels a bit lighter.
Yeah.
But also thank you for showing up after getting some bad news as well. And hopefully we can, we're here to walk alongside you if you
send in love and to your friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My other question is, where are you heading?
I think we're going to the fairy doors, are we? Where am I heading? Maybe to Denmark, possibly, and definitely in the direction of rescheduling psilocybin, which is my main direction of travel in the UK.
Okay.
And maybe for the rest of the world as well. We get round to it,
Oh, big ambition.
A
I
woman
like it.
on a mission.
Yeah, I'm on a bit of a mission.
Can you help explain what rescheduling means and what psilocybin means?
So, psilocybin, it is the psychoactive compound in magic mushrooms. It is a wonderful tool for therapy, and it's an incredibly healing therapeutic agent. Now, it's part of magic mushrooms. Magic mushrooms have psilocybin in it. They grow abundantly in this country right now. In fact, in grasslands, in mushrooms called liberty caps, and on the top of people's wardrobes in jars and all other kinds of things. And those typically are psilocybin cubensis, different kinds of mushrooms. But they are Class A drugs, right? So Class A drug, ABCD, depends on how long you can, whether or not I am allowed to keep something, whether the police can take it off me, whether or not, how long they can lock me up for. So with a Class A drug, if I have it on me, it's like 7 years in prison, hypothetically.
Wow.
14 years for me giving it to you.
So more than P. Diddy.
Yeah, exactly. In theory, Class A, really serious.
Putting the priorities in there, right?
Yeah.
You know?
But the biggest problem we have, and it is ridiculous. I mean,
It's a natural
it grows
resource,
everywhere.
right?
Yeah.
And it's, as soon as you pick it, then that's in theory a illegal act.
Whoa.
But if you eat it on all fours directly into the mouth, according to Professor Nutt, should be legal.
Yes.
Okay, so
long
as
live
we
Professor
animal
Nutt.
it up,
Yeah,
we should be fine.
potentially.
Yeah.
But the problem we've really got is that it's not just the class, but there's the schedule of the substance.
Right.
And the schedule, so you've got class A, B, C, D, schedule 1, 2, 3, 4. And the schedule relates to whether or not a substance is allowed to be in the possession of like a licensed person. So a doctor, nurse, researcher. And so morphine is a Class A drug, but it is a Schedule 2 substance because every hospital carries morphine. It's a medicine, and the hospital won't function without it. So the issue we have is that all psychedelic medicines are Class A drugs, but they are also Schedule 1 substances, and that means that no one can really touch them. It's really, really difficult to access them. It's expensive to do research with them, but there's no patient access. The only place you're going to be able to get access is within a clinical trial, and that's expensive to run. So what our campaign is doing, Psilocybin Access Rights, is asking to bring that down in the scheduling. Now, there's never been a review of this medicine. For something to be in Schedule 1, it's meant to have no known medical benefit and high potential for abuse. And neither of those things are true of psilocybin.
That doesn't sound like magic mushrooms to me.
Yeah.
Well, interestingly with psilocybin, the body builds up almost an immediate tolerance. So if I was to give it to you today, tomorrow, the next day. By day sort of 3, 4, in theory, you might have no response at all. So in terms of addictive potential, the data shows that it's got less kind of potential than caffeine for addiction.
Right.
So we're dealing with a substance that, and in the clinical trials with thousands and thousands of participants now, we're looking at something that is safe, and it's not only safe, but it's efficacious, it works. And what we're trying to do, it is a medicine, and Australia has rescheduled it, the Czech Republic, Czechia has rescheduled it, Germany has just granted compassionate access for treatment-resistant depression. Canada has got compassionate access for end-of-life distress, and what we think is going to happen, can happen any day now, but I hope before the end of the year, but soon, is RFK, the health minister in the US. His own son was treated with a psychedelic medicine very effectively, and he's seen the power that these medicines have had within the veteran movement. So a lot of veterans
like
suffering
PTSD,
from PTSD have had treatment.
If the army's working with something, it's like it's legit. So
Yeah.
why can't we all have access? So
Well,
you work
they're
in
gonna
medical,
reschedule.
trying to get medical access.
We're
for
trying to get
people
medical access.
have therapeutic care with
Psilocybin.
Am I right in thinking this all changed for like psilocybin like 20 years ago, or has it always been the case?
Yeah, I mean, in 1971, the Nixon administration.
Sorry, there was a
America-
millennial moment there where we
Oh,
all
yeah.
thought 20 years ago was the 1970s.
Yeah, no. Well, I'm going back further.
No, I thought 2005.
Oh,
Because,
sorry.
yeah, you were thinking
I always think
2005.
we're, like the 80s was 20 years ago.
Yeah, no, I'm going way back.
Ignore
I'm going
me,
way
ignore
back.
me.
But in 1971 is where it all really broke down, because these mushrooms weren't really identified until like the 50s. But in that period, 50s and 60s, there was an explosion in the research that was done. There were actually 40,000 people who went through clinical trials mostly in the US and Canada, in like that early period, to understand these medicines, and particularly people were looking at treating things like alcoholism.
Yeah, they did that with LSD, right?
Yeah, and there's a great the documentary How to Change Your Mind with Michael
Yes,
Pollan. The first episode of that really goes into the drug war and why in 1971 Nixon decided to criminalize the hippies, and to do that, and black people as well, and to do that, they were the enemy of the administration. They were trying to win the next election. And there's this famous quote by one of his advisors where he says, "We couldn't make it illegal to be black or a hippie, but we could make their substances illegal.
Wow.
And we could criminalize them on the nightly news and demonize them." And that's what we did. And it was successful. But yeah, the hippie movement had become associated with these new psychedelic medicines, drugs as they were, and people were turning on, tuning in, dropping out of Vietnam, not wanting to go to war, and do those things. So
They didn't want free thinkers, because my thinking, like psilocybin magic mushrooms, it's quite expansive. It's like, I think you've described it before as like, it's like your brain growing. So they didn't want to encourage any free thought or for people to think independently, because they wanted them to fight their wars, and
they don't want peace and love.
No.
That's the thing. The hippie movement at that time was about peace and love, but there were some individuals, Timothy Leary, who was a famous Harvard professor, who tried LSD and mushrooms and decided that he just thought everyone needed to do this, and everyone needed to attacked by a fly, I think, turn on, tune in, drop
You're
out,
attracting
nature. And so he wanted everyone to do this, and there were actually two schools of thought at the time. There was Aldous Huxley, who'd written Brave New World, this great English author, who'd also had these experiences. He wrote The Doors of Perception after taking mescaline, and his view was you had to talk to the intelligentsia and the influencers, if you like, of the age, and get them to try it and get them to understand it. It would all filter down. And Timothy Leary's vision was the other way. It was like, everyone's got to do it from the grassroots up. We've just got everyone to do this, and that scared America. It scared a very conservative America, and like all drugs at that point, all kind of psychoactive drugs, including psychedelics, were then outlawed. They were, put into Schedule 1. Psychedelics were put into Schedule 1, which is just there's never been any review of the evidence, because actually they have medical benefits, so they should never have been in Schedule 1, to be honest. But yeah, they put in Schedule 1 and Class A, the Americans made the whole world do
Right.
this. And so actually,
why is it their business to tell everyone to
I
do
know,
now?
I know. But what's crazy about this is what's about to happen is because America has such a different political system, they've been state by state. There's been a lot of decriminalization in America, because you can have a ballot, you can have a petition, and basically say we want to decriminalize. And in Oregon, they went further. Ballot 109 in 2020 actually was a ballot to create a statewide healthcare system, a taxed system dedicated to the use of psilocybin. So
Right.
Oregon has really led the world. It's got its own problems with how that's been brought to life, but anyone over, I think it's over the age of 25 in Oregon, you don't have to have a mental health condition, you don't have to have any kind of indication. If you just want to go and explore your own consciousness, you can go into a dedicated center and pay a lot of money to go and have an experience with some preparation, the dosing itself, and then some integration afterwards. They've put in place a whole kind of program for this.
That's so progressive.
But America now,
Yeah.
if it federally reschedules, which we hope it will do, because RFK is a big fan of psychedelics.
Okay.
He's seen the power for these veterans. He's seen it for his own son. Like he's a believer, and quite rightly, because the science shows it. That's what this medicine does. It works. It heals people. And so if he federally reschedules, what's crazy is we'll still be living with the aftermath of 1971 because of the Americans, and they will have moved on. And we've got just too much inertia in our system. And the rest of Europe is starting to move, as they should do, because they should respect the science. And our government is just too slow.
It's science-based.
It's science. It really is just the science.
But we've been brought up to fear, like, medicine. I was brought up to fear mushrooms.
Yeah, of course.
What about you, Dan?
Yeah, definitely. Like I had experiences when I was young from friends who were sectioned, and they deemed it actually to do with cannabis in the end, but they were both on mushrooms when they got sectioned. And so my fear was like, it was real. It really scared me about them. But also just, the fear of drugs in general. But I've kind of grown to kind of see alcohol as kind of the most dangerous drug.
It is. And Professor Nutt, anybody can look up the kind of scale of harms in the Lancet. And alcohol is the most damaging drug, most harmful drug for our society. And at the other end of that spectrum is mushrooms.
Well, this is it, because I look at mushrooms and cannabis especially as plant medicine rather than a drug.
Yeah. And it's sad because your friends were no doubt smoking skunk and kind of
super skunk,
like
and
this is
sticky,
the
icky
thing.
Green.
People have been sorry about that.
Oh my God, Siri's like, I
don't-
need to be a disruptor. But Siri has reminded me that we should say that none of us are recommending anyone need to try anything. None of us are medical experts. This is three people talking about their knowledge and their experience.
Yeah.
Thank you, Siri.
And but with the skunk, like what's terrible is that people have bred these strains to be very, very high in THC, very psychoactive, but without having the same balance that the natural plant has between
full
THC
spectrum,
and CBD. Those two
Right.
things together, and you find that when those two things are in a natural balance, people don't have the same responses, these kind of like psychosis, because cannabis absolutely can and does cause psychosis. Interestingly, mushrooms and psychedelics, they make people look like they are experiencing psychosis in the experience itself. And actually some of the original research that was done in like the 50s and 60s around the psychedelic substances, some of it was to work out, they did stuff where they would give people psychedelics and then test antipsychotics. So you see what I mean? They use psychedelics as like we're going to give them psychosis, and then we're going to work out how to get rid of psychosis. So they were amazing tools, for all of that research, and all of that was shut down. But so it does look very similar to psychosis, and there's an amazing man called Stanislav Grof who did a lot of work giving patients who were schizophrenic and who were in really, really bad psychotic state, giving them high doses of psychedelics. There's some very interesting research that was done in that period. But right now we're at a place where we already have enough research to know that this is a safe and efficacious medicine in the right context. And absolutely, like I think
efficacious.
Oh, it works. It works.
It works.
It works.
So is this why like you're kind of looking at like the classification of this substance, because
the schedule
yeah. Is that different to
so we're not trying to, as a campaign, we're not trying to change the class. And unfortunately that means that yes, this natural medicine that grows out of the ground will still be a class A drug. You still won't be able to pick it or grow it or give it to anyone in theory, but if we can get the rescheduling, then we will allow people to, there will be a process by which people can have therapeutic access. So people who want or need it, or like in Oregon,
for anxiety, depression, right?
Yeah, so the main conditions that we look to this medicine for in terms of the clinical data already is depression is the big one. Especially treatment-resistant depression. I mean, I personally have known people who've been through treatments, they've been through 10 or more treatments, 17 years. One of them was depressed for this. He went through a clinical trial here in the UK, and it overnight, in 1 4 to 6 hour experience, freed him from that depression for the first time in 17 years. So treatment-resistant depression, end-of-life distress is a big one. So cancer patients, we're looking at.
Can we talk about that a bit more?
Yeah, and we're living in a situation right now, and one of the conversations we're having with MPs is, hey, if you voted for the euthanasia bill, you are saying right now that you would rather somebody killed themselves than was able to access this medicine that might give them back the last few months of their life and allow them to feel joy and not allow them to live with the fear of death, because end-of-life distress is it's a terrible thing for someone to live with in those last few months or even years. Really, really difficult. One of my dear friends, very young man, he died recently, and I wish so much that he'd been able to easily, legally access this treatment in those last few years when he was going through all his bowel cancer treatment. Terrible, very difficult time for him. And like, had he been able to access this medicine, would he have been able to get through it with more resilience and with more joy and less fear of what was coming? I think the evidence suggests probably yes. And then we've got PTSD, we've got big trauma, we've got veterans, first responders. This treatment, it works in the clinical data in terms of helping people deal with that trauma. And I mean, I'm
childhood trauma as well.
Childhood trauma, sexual trauma.
Right.
I'm a trustee of Heroic Hearts, which is the CEO actually lives in Margate here.
Yes.
And he amazing man. And they've just come back from the Netherlands. They have to take veterans abroad to have treatment with psychedelic medicine. I know the retreat that they did earlier in the year, I think there were maybe 8 veterans on that retreat, and not one of them clinically qualifies as having PTSD anymore.
Wow.
After one trip, one experience. Going out, in that case, they had to go all the way to Peru to access another psychedelic, ayahuasca.
When we say trip,
so that was literally a trip. They literally went on a plane. They flew.
Am I right in thinking that's not probably what some of us may have experienced when we have experimented? As in, like, we're talking about like a heavy therapeutic dose, so not just like a party dose or what we may have experienced in our experimentation, but a proper.
Well, one of the really confusing things about cannabis as well as psychedelics and mushrooms is that they can and they are used recreationally, but they are also powerful healing agents and therapeutic tools, and that's confusing for people because people want to put them in one box or another, and it doesn't quite work like that. So people do take low levels typically of mushrooms or other psychedelics in order to give themselves visual experiences, change their consciousness, change their state. But when you do a therapeutic dose, you're looking at a higher dosage, and in the clinical trials what they'll do is you will take the medicine, you'll lie down in a bed with an eye mask on, listening to a pre-prepared playlist that is designed to take you, it takes you kind of through the foothills of emotion, and then it will build into kind of like pieces of music that have a lot of emotional tension or release in them. Very beautiful pieces of music. and then that will kind of track the peak of the psilocybin experience, and in that room will be a sitter, a guide, a therapist. In the clinical trials it's often 2, but in reality it's probably going to be 1 in the future. But there'll be somebody there who is holding the space for you. And in psychedelic therapy we talk about the set and the setting. So the set is the mindset that you bring to the experience of how positive, how open-minded, how curious, how prepared you feel. You need to know that you're doing it. Taking a psychedelic medicine or giving it to somebody else, that could be an immensely traumatic experience. Like, you have to know what you're doing. You have to be conscious that you can't just put this in. People talk about put it into the water or something. That would terrify and harm everybody that did that, because we're used to the world being like this and pretty easy to navigate. If you're taking a powerful psychedelic, it's almost like you're opening up your mind, and people take them at festivals and places where they have their eyes wide open, and there's lots of different stimulus and people they don't know, and that's terrifying for the brain when the brain has become open and very, very vulnerable. And I often liken it to kind of surgery. This is, you wouldn't do surgery like out on the street where there's, dogs pissing and, stuff going on. You do it in a place where it's clean and where
in a
people,
controlled environment.
and where people are there, they know what they're doing, they've got all the right instruments. And when you're opening up your mind in this experience, you're in this very, very vulnerable state. You need to be in a therapeutic container, so that it's the set, your mindset going into it, and the setting that you're in, like the total environment that you're in, the person who's with you, the amount of love and care that they show for you. It all becomes very, very, your brain becomes very sensitive. And by using an eye mask, asking people to lie down and really direct their energy inwards, what that does is allow them to kind of like unlock themselves and what's going on in their deep subconscious. They're not dealing with the world and what's going on at this festival. They're actually focusing in, and that's where you can kind of go deep, as we say, go into that subconscious state and access your subconscious, try and understand, try and get your insights that might be driving some of your challenges.
Can I ask, a lot of what you're kind of campaigning for is to do with therapy, right, and therapeutic experiences. Is there anything
people
like
do have therapeutic experiences at festivals? Like, it does happen. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I'm also saying, like, it can be
There's a difference between
traumatic. It's also, there's very powerful substances, and one of the reasons that we run this campaign is because we know it's going to happen anyway. We know that this medicine is going to come, but we want it to come in a way that is safe and regulated, and where people aren't just taking them in ways that are dangerous, or that where they might traumatize themselves. They're powerful substances. Sorry, what were you asking me?
I wanted to ask about obviously it being therapeutic, and there's a difference between using something in a recreational sense and a kind of science-backed based kind of way to help with therapy and stuff. Is it something that's been explored in terms of like creativity or supporting burnout or something? Like, these are just kind of topics that we've been talking a lot about. So
there are some studies, I think, looking at creativity. I mean, the way that we think that psilocybin works in the brain, the kind of mechanism, if you like, is that different brain regions are connected together that aren't normally connected together. There's almost Robin Carhart Harris, he talks about when his work was at Imperial, now he's in the US, but he talks about the default mode network in the brain, which is kind of like almost like the what's the guy called who runs the orchestra?
Conductor
of the orchestra. The default mode network, when that's knocked out, all of the orchestra is playing all at once. It's like when they're warming up, and so there's all this disorder, but there's a lot of connectivity. So people very often experience things like synesthesia, where they might see music or hear a color. These things that are suddenly connected in ways that aren't normally. But also your memories, your experience, part of the brain. Sometimes people liken it to a landscape, and it's like, oh, if I want to think about my grandmother, it's over that mountain, it's kind of difficult to access, I can't really remember these things. Suddenly everything's flattened, and actually I can zoom right there, I I can retrieve these memories, these associations from my deep past. I've seen people certainly have experiences of being in their grandmother's garden and tasting the plums from the tree. And
okay, we stopped the recording because we saw this beautiful molecule up here, which we thought had quite a good connectivity with.
Hands on Molecule by David Barnes.
Yeah, I don't think it tells you what molecule it actually is. It's sort of just a random molecule, but let's hope it stands in for the psilocybin.
Well, it's sponsored by Pfizer, which is obviously a good sign.
Ouch.
Actually, it was oh crap, I can't remember the name of the company. There's one of the other big labs that's in Switzerland, and it was Albert Hoffman he was working for this. Can you think of any other big? Pfizer, this another one. There's just brain. Like big.
Let's talk about the man himself.
Yeah, he was working for them when he isolated LSD.
He was trying to find something to clot blood, right? To stop bleeding from childbirth.
From childbirth, that's right. And he actually went back to this molecule for reasons that are not at all clear. I don't think he even really understood them himself. Like he'd identified the molecule. They'd been giving it to rats, animals, and it hadn't done the job exactly that they'd wanted it to do, but it made them maybe do some strange behaviors. And then it was years later that he then came back to the molecule and somehow happened in some circumstance, we don't really know, to get some of it onto his skin and ingest a tiny amount of this molecule. And then he cycled home and on his journey, and it was on the 19th of April, I believe, because that's what we call Bicycle Day.
Yeah.
The day that he took cycled home and had this mind-expanding, crazy, real psychedelic experience. And then after that, started to investigate it further, took it kind of consciously, I think the next day or a couple of days later, and explore what it could do. And later, he was sent, actually, the mushrooms that had been found by Gordon Wassons and these like mycologists. These guys are really into mushrooms who've been down in the Central America, and they were sent to Albert's lab, and he isolated psilocybin. He was the first person to synthesize psilocybin from the magic mushrooms of Mexico. And but yeah, we have Albert to thank for a great deal. But he had this, his wunderkind, his baby that he kind of gave birth to in the world became associated with all of these problems and drugs and all of this kind of negativity, when actually it's an amazing therapeutic agent.
Didn't he use it every day until he was 90?
Oh God, maybe.
Yeah.
It might have been onto the microdosing. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Wow. There's so much to learn about this field, and I was just thinking, we haven't even talked about the actual experience that people go through when they take this medicine, which is totally wonderfully varied and unique to them. And I think one of the biggest challenges we've got in terms of shifting from the current mental health model
let's walk and talk. Let's get into it.
The paradigm is going to change dramatically because at the moment people take SSRI antidepressants. just running down that hill.
Just replaying them. Sorry.
No.
I don't get out much.
Yeah. Run free. No, people take pills at the moment, and they hope that those pills will fix their life and their brain and their mood. But actually, psilocybin-assisted psychotherapy is a very different gig, because it's not something you're just putting in your mouth and you're taking every day. It's something where you might have a experience that lasts between 4 and 6 hours, and that experiencing it may be very challenging. There may be a lot of tears. There may be you may confront ideas or people or things that are difficult, challenging, maybe even scary, although in the right therapeutic environment with people who are there to support you, that's actually where transformation happens, and people do visit difficult things and resolve them, and it's a magnificent thing to kind of witness and see, and to see these transformations in people. And people they say they got their lives back. Like that's
Right.
the
It's
people
beautiful.
like the veterans and stuff who, you know, I think our society especially kind of goes, oh, you're on the scrap heap of life, you know, there's nothing we can do for you, and actually there is. And so I just want more people to be able to access this medicine safely in a regulated way, not have to go into the psychedelic underground, which is what people
Or the
currently
dark
do.
web.
All of that. And this campaign, so the PAR campaign for psilocybin access rights, we set it up in 2022. We did a petition, 11,000 people signed it. And the government said, we have no plans to reschedule psilocybin. Thanks very much. But since then, we've done the UK's first psychedelic ad campaign. And the last year, we've sent out 89,000 leaflets into the constituencies of the Home Office Minister. It was Croydon, then it was Hull, and now, weirdly, it's back to Croydon for somebody else. So Project Croydon is back on.
I grew up in Croydon.
Did
Yeah,
you? Okay,
nice.
great. Well,
Crocs.
our girl is Sarah Jones, and she's the drug minister. She needs to sign a piece of paper that will allow for the
Come on,
rescheduling.
Sarah.
I know. And what we're doing in the meantime is getting all of our MPs to ask the Home Office to review the evidence. The evidence for psilocybin has never been reviewed. It shouldn't be in Schedule 1. It is nonsense. It is non-science. It should be in Schedule 2. And then we can open up and expand safe access. And that is it's just the science. And we call ourselves Psilocybin Access Rights because psilocybin has the most clinical application. It's very fast acting. There's a lot of data. It's really difficult to argue with. And it does grow naturally in our, you know, and it doesn't have the same associations with ecstasy and the club use. Yes, it can be used recreationally, but, you know, we've basically gone with psilocybin as the tip of the spear, if you like. Yeah. The reality is that if the Home Office reviews the evidence, they will review all psychedelics and MDMA is like a psycholytic, they call it. It's like it's very similar acting, close. And if they review them, they should all be in Schedule 2. They should all be in Schedule 2.
It all makes me think of Bill Hicks.
Oh yeah.
And like how he was talking about like God creating the earth and stuff like that, and about Christians and Christianity, and how on the seventh day, like after having the spliff, he was like, looked down and was like, oh shit, I left mushrooms and cannabis everywhere. People are going to think that they need to use them.
Well, sadly, we have a mental health crisis in this country, and everybody seems to think there's nothing we can do about it. But I'm here to tell you there is, and it's the one thing that gives me hope, and hope is the thing that keeps people alive. We lose something like 18 people every day in this country to suicide. I literally heard just yesterday about the friend of a very good friend, a young man who killed himself. And you know, people, they give up hope, and there is a medicine. It does represent hope for millions of people who are suffering all kinds of challenges and addictions as well. You know, we see that this medicine, it can work for them, and we need them to be able to get the safe, regulated access and to do this in a way that can help them. And I've seen it with my own eyes. I've seen it hundreds, thousands of times that people can get this help that they need. It's not to say it's a silver bullet. It's not to say it will work for everyone every time. But if it works at all, then we've got to allow people to have that chance to try this and to do it. And I'm very fond of saying I think this is our generation's penicillin moment. Because penicillin, you know, antibiotics, we cannot imagine living in a world where we didn't have antibiotics. It used to be that you could scratch your finger on a rusty gate in the garden and die from the infection, and now those people are alive. So there are millions of lives that we can save. And not only that, when we really start to deal with the mental health crisis, it's not just going to be our health that's going to benefit, it's going to be our criminal justice system. It's going to be our hospitals.
So many people must be locked up for that stuff.
But it will be lung cancer because you know, the tobacco indication, we've got data that says 80% cessation, quitting tobacco for 6 months after 1 or 2 high dose experiences. Now that's pretty much the best treatment you can look for on planet Earth if you've got a really serious addiction. So actually
I
just
presume
lung
as well-
cancer, obesity, the criminal justice system where we've got people who are
Antidepressants as well, right?
of course, but
It's not just saving a quality of life
Yes.
as well,
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that the reality is there are people in our towns who are very traumatized people who go on and traumatize other people. And
Yeah.
we
Of
see it
course.
all the time. And you see their addictions out on the street, and they are people who very often were neglected or abused as children and have not had any way to process that. And very often people with addictions to opiates, it's a totally rational life choice to want to numb your body
Escape.
and your mind and to escape the pain of living and your memories and things like that. So, once we can try and heal some of those traumas, we can rehabilitate our society in a way that I am a bit of a utopian about this. I really do think that psychedelics can have a massive impact on society that's positive. And people sometimes go, oh yeah, but they can't solve everything, and they can't solve poverty and, all of these things. But my God, we've got to...
They're an option, a complete unexplored option that isn't available to so many people.
Can I just put in that there is hope for, until that time comes around.
Of course there is. Yeah.
Which
hope for
hopefully
everyone.
will be soon, but there is still hope. There's still kind of lots of kind of different organizations that can help people who are struggling or perhaps have suicide ideation or anything.
Absolutely.
Like
And actually,
companies
you
and
don't
organizations.
need to take a psychedelic to experience a psychedelic state. Stanislav Grof, who I mentioned earlier, he did a lot of work there's something called breath work.
Yeah.
So
Getting high on your own supply.
exactly. And
Nice.
breath work effectively taps into that same opportunity of making the brain connect,
Making
the
state.
brain connect, knocking out the default mode network, changing the brain state, and deep meditation as well.
Yeah.
There are ways in which anyone, I believe, can access these same kind of states. It's just that, I obviously am advocating for us to make this medicine.
Well, what can we all be doing to
Yeah,
kind
what
of
can we do to help?
educate
Join the
ourselves,
campaign.
and what can we
and talk about it?
Yeah.
Okay, so where do we go? We go on to the
Go to
PAR.
PAR website.
Okay.
There's an email.
What is the PAR website?
par.global.
So
people
PAR.
PAR.global. People sometimes say to me, yeah, it's not global, you're just talking about the UK. I'm like, yeah, but the idea is this is for all of us. This is for everyone. And Psilocybin Access Rights, I believe it's a civil rights movement and
Yes,
the world
okay.
over, basically. So, but if you go onto the website, there's an email template there. You can literally just press a button, and you can press another button to see who your MP is, because most people don't know. It's
Yep.
Polly Billington around here. And you just see who your MP is, you put their address into the email, bosh, send it off, or write
I've
to
done
them.
mine.
Yeah, you've done
She
yours.
got back to me
You've
yesterday.
done yours.
No, I didn't know about
We'll
it till
get
today.
yours.
Yeah, I'm learning.
We're about to send out 900 letters to MPs. There's 650 MPs across the country, and I'm about to get a whole load more written tomorrow at Margate Mushroom Festival for Polly. So we're coming for you, Polly Billington. But
in a nice way. In a nice way.
well, we want her signature. I want her signature.
Collaborative,
Yeah.
communicative way.
I want her signature on our letters to the Home Office, because there's no reason not to sign. All we want is the Home Office to follow through on the science, review the evidence. We are asking for something that is so conservative with a small c. We're
Yeah.
not woo. We're not
Science,
I don't know.
it's science.
It's science. It's science. It's science. And that's the kind of that's the world we are playing in. So, but I really do believe that we need hope.
Yes.
And that there are too many people who give up hope at the moment, and that kills me. That's why I want people to know that this medicine even exists, even if they can't get access right now, or even if they have to travel abroad to do it legally, or things like that. But there is hope. It's not something that the depression that we see in society, anxiety, it's not something that people have to live with forever. And I have seen miracles in terms of people transforming their lives with these medicines. And even stuff like what's it called, the eye motion
EDMR?
stuff, EDMR.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I've seen people get great healing with some of these different modalities and somatic work
Not
with the
necessarily
body.
talking therapies.
No,
Yeah.
not necessarily talking
Yeah, yeah.
therapies. Actually, it's one of the things I think is really interesting for young men, because we've got such a problem with young men and suicide. And actually, there is a resistance to talking. One of the interesting things about psilocybin-assisted psychotherapy is that typically you might not talk at all.
Yeah, yeah.
You don't actually have to say anything. And it's the same with the EDMR, right?
Okay.
You don't have to actually say anything, don't have to talk to anyone about it, but it might help you process what you're going through. And so there are other things out there other than CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, which is the one that everybody holds up and says, do this, but that's maybe not right for everybody.
Absolutely.
No. And if you are able to talk and you are in that state, then there's organisations like Calm, Campaign Against Living Miserably.
Calm, the CEO of Calm, has signed a letter along with the Royal College of Psychiatrists. Yes, Simon, we love you, Simon Gunning. He's he's broadly supportive of what we're doing. Because we are just really trying to let the scientists do the science, let the doctors do the medicine.
Well, you do the campaigning. Well, we're so honoured to have you join us, and I've learnt so much. I mean, just such a pleasure to walk and talk with you today.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Thank you for letting me share this with your audience, because it's really, that's my life's work, I believe. So.
Well, you're on a mission, and we're here to support as well. So you can hear more about Tara's forward journey and the journey of PAR. Go and visit them online, and we'll sign out.
Yeah, sign up and sign out.
Thank you for joining us. See you soon.
See you later.
It's called
Where We Heading?